We were chased off by a Dogman gang. Dear Scary Stories NYC, I went hiking and camping with my friend Pugsley, and I think we were systematically harassed and run off by a group or pack of Dogmen. Yet the way everything went down, it left us unsure as to what really even happened. It always seems as if the Dogman understands human culture well enough to only interfere in our world just enough to stake out their turf, and not enough so that the larger human culture begins to see the Dogman as a problem. As long as they can keep most people skeptical about their existence, the Dogman can get away with a lot more. But how could they know this, if they're just wild predatorial animals? On this trip we had multiple encounters with these creepy creatures, not just one. Settle in and hold on to your hat. This is going to get both windy and bumpy. So we were hiking toward the general area we intended to camp in, along the Pinnacle Trail. You can get pretty high up in the air over there, and in certain places you do have to be a little careful about sticking to the path and not falling over the edge. As we came to one such area, this big, tall, hairy man wearing no clothing leaped out sideways from a patch of woods and elbowed my hiking buddy Calvin, sending him off balance to the edge of the cliff. As the big hairy monster man turned to race away from this hit and run, I got to see his face for a second. It was only a second, but it was a clear, unobstructed view. It resembled the monster on a lot of your thumbnails, the long-snouted snaggletooth one. It ran like an Olympic sprinter, but its feet looked more like dog legs than they looked like a man's. It never looked back at Calvin. It just raced off to its next appointment. I'm not really sure how tall it was, but it was bigger than any man I'd ever seen. It looked young and athletic, not overly muscle-bound, and yet I bet it weighed more than any human male that ever lived. Calvin grabbed hold of some rocks on the edge of the precipice, and I was able to pull him back up on the path. Neither of us could figure out if the Dogman had run out just then in order to knock my friend off the cliff to his inevitable demise, or if he just happened to be running there and only ran into Calvin by chance. It's sort of a very different story, one way or the other, and we were very curious as to which one was true. Did we randomly run into a random werewolf running randomly, or was someone trying to send us a message that we might not be welcome in that area? Now, where we were is an area set aside for tourists and hikers, and it's used by a very large number of people annually. We both decided right there on the spot that if there was a Dogman or a werewolf scaring people away from this very popular site, then we probably would have heard about it already. Either that, or the park would have cleaned it up or closed it down. Instead of being upset about it, we decided we should be happy and grateful. After all, we just got to see a werewolf or Dogman, and how many people can say that? As our nerves settled, we decided that it was a one-time only random occurrence, and that we'd better get going if we were going to reach our intended camping area in time to get set up before dark. And that is what we did with some extra time to spare. After pitching the tent, we decided to walk around looking for dry wood to build a campfire with. At one point, we were walking along a road over there on the side of one of the hills. We were finding a lot of branches which had fallen and rolled down the hill a long time ago, which were quite dried out. At one point, though, a rain of rocks, sized from pebbles to golf balls, came raining down the side of the steep forested hill, landing on top of the two of us. We ran out into the middle of the road and looked upward. There, up on the hill and climbing rapidly away from us, were two large upright canines, easily the same size or taller than the one who had pushed Calvin over. We only saw them for a few seconds as they retreated upward and away, but that was enough to put us both back in a very unhappy and uncomfortable state of mind. Once again, we were left asking, was this a random occurrence? Were they minding their own business, or had they been spying on me and Calvin? The rocks that fell on us, were they sent cascading down the hill deliberately, intending to hit us? Or was it the result of them climbing away and accidentally setting loose a lot of loose dirt and stone? Whether they intended to bother us or not, these dogmen were getting us very upset. We decided to skip making a fire. We'd eat our trail mix for dinner, and we'd share the same tent in case we were attacked. Since then, I've spoken with others who said we should have kept the campfire going all night and taken turns watching out for the dogman. We didn't know that the campfire would keep them at a distance. We thought it would only signal everybody in that part of the planet about where we were camping. So live and learn, and I'm glad we lived through what was about to happen next. We decided to go right to sleep so that we could get out of the area as soon as the sun came up in the morning. It seemed like a good plan, but soon we were hearing voices out in the night. They weren't speaking to us. They were saying things to each other. We listened as hard as we could, and although we were certain we were hearing voices, we couldn't tell what they were saying. Maybe it was a language we didn't recognize, I'm not sure. But at the time, we both felt almost positive that we were listening to the dogmen talking to other dogmen. Since then, a friend of Calvin's suggested to him that maybe the dogmen weren't saying anything at all. Maybe they were just imitating or making fun of what people sound like to them when we talk. Maybe they were trying to get us to come out of the tent by making noises that they might have thought of as human calls. You know, how we do a duck call? Maybe the dogman can do a human call. I feel like it was the dogman, although I don't know what it really meant. Maybe they were strategizing with each other, or maybe they really were trying to draw us out of our tent. At some point, the sounds seemed to stop, and I fell asleep. When I woke up suddenly a while later, Calvin was screaming out in pain and surprise while I couldn't shout, since I had just had all the wind knocked out of me by what I thought was a tree falling on our tent. I remember when I got my breath back, I asked Calvin if he had any serious injuries, because I didn't seem to. It forced him to stop screaming like a lunatic and start thinking like a human. We were both bruised, but nothing was broken, and we both agreed it was time to leave. We had been sleeping with our boots on for this exact kind of a reason. It was dark out, and it's always stupid to hike while it's dark. Even if you're hiking on flat land, which we were not. It was suicide to leave before the sun, but we just had a tree dropped on us as far as we knew, and we both felt safer leaving than staying, even though both options felt unintelligent and suicidal. When we were able to climb out of the ruined tent, we could see that it was not in fact a tree which had fallen upon us. It was a very large branch, bigger and heavier than some entire trees, and that was what had fallen upon us. We were camping in a clearing, though. We looked up. There was no tree above us. So where did it fall from? The moon? Man, of all the chills I got this entire day and night, I have to say that was the one that gave me the worst goosebumps. I mean, maybe that big old 300-pound branch hadn't fallen at all. Maybe something just tossed it on top of us. Maybe that's why we both weren't crushed to death. Maybe the thing was just lobbed on top. Maybe the intent was not to leave us deceased, but to get us to wake up and go away from this area. I prayed that was what was going on, because if that was the case, then we might be allowed by the Dogman clan to leave. Maybe if they saw us leaving, they might ease up and let us focus all our concentration on not getting ourselves hurt, or worse, in the pitch darkness. That was what I hoped for anyway. So we began the long trudge back, less weighed down because of all that we had to leave behind back at the camp. I could hear things moving in the woods to our left for a while, and then to our right after that. It always sounded like someone was behind us as well, but each time I would turn around, I would see nothing there. We came upon the ledge where the dogman had almost knocked Calvin, falling to his doom, and I have to say, we both needed a break to work our courage back up enough to proceed. Neither of us wanted to pass that way again, but we had to in order to return to the human world, basically. We held our weapons at the ready, and we walked the gauntlet, watching the woods intently, listening for any sound at all from inside those dark trees. I was sweating so much I almost couldn't hold my weapon. But we made it through safely, and we didn't hear anyone following us anymore after that. Even though I lived through this, I can't imagine the Dogman claimed turf on this part of the park. Maybe it was like festival time for their people or something. Maybe they needed that space for some personal reason that night. They couldn't possibly treat hikers like that very often, or the place would be famous for this kind of thing. Whenever I hear podcasts with people theorizing about the Dogman, I try to always listen. I'm willing to entertain all theories right now, because I'm so thoroughly mystified by that species and their culture, because I do think that's what we were observing. Cooperation and culture being exhibited by a non-human species. And since Calvin and I were unprepared to make first contact with another species on that day, we were chased off by a Dogman gang. Everybody loves Godzilla Tim. There's no one that don't love him. Please join me in thanking today's executive producer, Godzilla Tim, for making this episode possible. Godzilla Tim is a channel member who receives all our perks, like secret episodes, and then sometimes he donates to us either through our PayPal or by using our new thanks button under each of our YouTube videos. If not for Godzilla Tim, we'd be like Tokyo after it got trampled by giant monsters again. But this Godzilla is a builder, not a destroyer, and he's a huge reason we're even still here telling scary stories. Thank you, Godzilla Tim. And now to explain how you too can become as cool and highly regarded as Godzilla Tim is our international TV spokesmongrel, Henry Lee Dogman. Hank? Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button. Or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that one. It cuts off after I think 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.